Taffaro. Welcome back to the Sword&Spade Podcast. Right up on it. You don't know this because we're doing this, but after we said welcome to the Sword&Spade Podcast, there was a cool intro with the music from the kids.
Okay.
They played in here.
Oh, nice.
That's
the intro.
It's the intro. People don't know that. We just introduced it. That's my kids playing the music. You got it? You good?
I think so.
You out with them pants. All right.
I'm in there.
Wait. There you go. Twist it. All right, Craig.
Bop it.
My neighbor. We're going to begin this podcast esoteric.
Okay.
Like any good podcast.
Yeah.
But we're going to get really nitty gritty because you and I live a nitty gritty life. So much so that we might get interrupted with, what's his name with the hay?
Ethan the hay guy.
Ethan the hay guy and Peter, who's supposed to be unloading the hay.
I should silence my device.
Let's do it. This mutual silencing. Wait, put it on the figure it out mode. Oh, somebody's calling me right now. No. Figure it out. Call you later.
Yep.
All right. Now that we did that, but because we live across the street from one another, and as I said on the last podcast you were in, we have an underground tunnel between our properties, which people just have to come and see. They don't believe me. But we're going to talk about the last time we discussed, we were talking about the role of pleasure and goodness and drawing us, because you're a butcher, you're a cook, you're just one of those guys. You can do that thing.
I like to eat.
You like to eat. Things are tasty. Tasty is your word. So then naturally you had an inclination, because you're a man, to somehow integrate what you love and what you do with your family and your community. And you started a butcher shop. And that butcher shop has been thwarted by the government.
Unsuccessfly thwarted.
Sorry. Has been hindered, hiccuped, annoyed, slowed. And they have found, they being the government has found that you have some intelligence and some tenacity. So you're pushing back. And I want to talk about that because I experienced that on a much lower level in the dairy world, trying to start a grade A dairy and just reading the laws and just saying, I think you guys are, reading this differently. You've had a harder time than I have. And if we were to talk about that, it would be easy for a sort of libertarian bent in us to go, see, laws are the problem.
Yeah.
And we should therefore repeal laws.
Yeah. The institution shouldn't be there.
It shouldn't be there. And to have no laws equals freedom. And to have laws equals non-freedom. So America has a sort of, peace with the idea that we can have some laws that are absolutely necessary, but that's a necessary evil.
Like we should hang murderers. That should be a law.
Right. Maybe. Right. Unless it's profitable to keep them alive for their entire life. Right. So maybe that'll be a law. But then, we run out of reasons to come up with laws. If it's just, they're just bad. So you and I find ourselves regularly, locally, in our friendships, being accused of being liberals, right?
Yeah. Liberal, hippie, Marxist, something like that.
Right. When in actuality, what we're trying to point out is that in our country, we have a hard time recognizing what true liberalism is. Because most of our political discourse is actually just two forms of liberalism, right? Liberalism of the right and liberalism of the left.
Yep.
So this is a big topic, but I think, and it seems esoteric and maybe even unnecessary for the average working guy, but it actually has really kind of exploded, I would say, in your life, what you've experienced in trying to start a butcher shop. So this podcast, we're going to do two things. You and I are going to go back and forth to describe, because you didn't start out as a butcher. You actually have, is it a master's in political science?
No, just my bachelor's in
what a loser.
Political philosophy.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get that master's like you.
No,
Not that smart.
I don't have a bachelor's like you. I just have a master's. So I don't know who's ahead of who.
So we're going to start there in the esoteric.
Well, I think
philosophically.
I think one, coming to grips with, I think a lot of people think they are conservative and they're actually liberal. That's the point.
Yeah.
That we're going to begin with.
The bold claim that we're all liberals.
That we're all liberals. And we just have to find out how we're liberals.
Yeah.
And we're going to define it not as just like, are you for Planned Parenthood or do you love or hate the environment?
Right, we're not talking about political parties here.
No. So we're talking about is the highest good of man liberty?
Mm-hmm.
Is the highest good of man individual freedom?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, we're already, I can just sense that we're making people angry. But the reason I'm going to bring that up is actually to talk about laws. In your case, that law is not just about, do you have a existing law, which is oppression, or a non-law, which is freedom, but actually are the laws ordered towards man's happiness and flourishing? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Instead of just law or no law, it's actually in the classical sense, are you being restricted or not? But are you being ordered towards what is good or not? Are we good there? Can we start?
Yeah, let's start there. And then we'll air my laundry.
And then we need to, I think we're at the point where we were kind of, I don't know, maybe subtle about your inspectors and the problems you've been having, trying to be human across the street from me. So,
yes.
But with your degree, am I articulating well how you would?
Yes,
like
I think
liberalism?
So.
Correct me or augment. Where are we?
No, I don't need to correct you. You describe it well, that the fundamental question is your highest good as man to be radically free and therefore to be in conflict, or as some political philosophers put it, at war with your fellow man? That is your fundamental state, because your desires are not his desires, and his desires are not your desires. And so therefore, fundamentally, by nature, you are in conflict. That is the fundamental order of the world.
So if that's our fun, what's our peace? If that is it,
our peace is only through some agreed submission to some other power that we establish outside of ourselves. This is Hobbes' Leviathan, or the contract in Thomas Locke.
The social contract.
The social contract, that we acknowledge, yes, we are at war with one another, but I don't desire to be at war all the time. I'd actually like to live in some relative harmony. And so therefore, you and I are going to make an agreement. And this doesn't mean that I have to love you. Doesn't mean you have to love me. It just means we're going to agree. We're going to set aside some of our desires so that I can enjoy most of my life the way I want to enjoy it, and you can enjoy most of your life the way you want to enjoy it. And we're going to let this higher power outside of ourselves help us make sure we do that.
So it's a treaty.
It's a treaty.
Right? Is that a good analogy?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to bring in Deneen then. So Patrick Deneen, he's kind of well known in like what's now called, it's super hip. Or I don't know if it's super hip, but post-liberal.
If you're a nerd.
Yeah, gosh, we're nerds. Is post-liberalism, which is, and he wrote this book called Why Liberalism Failed, which hit right when I think a lot of our confidence in just the like ever expanding freedom, which we sort of went from individual freedom to sort of local freedom to national freedom to like global freedom. It basically, like, the modern liberalism ended in no philosophical means to stop globalization.
Yes.
In some ways, right? That we had no means to actually stop things that we knew were destroying us. So I've had conversations with people that would say I'm a conservatively minded person who had no philosophical argument against, for example, pornography.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how the courts in our country settled the question of pornography. Was it's free speech.
Right.
So we can regulate when teenagers drive cars. We can regulate when they drink beer and buy alcohol, but we can't. It's speech. What do you want me to do about the porn?
Right.
And somebody of a older sense of things would say outlaw it because it's evil.
Yeah. And
we had a hard time in the libertarian, but that would be limiting their freedom.
Yeah.
We'd say no, it's limiting their evil. So that's where we found it. And then he wrote this book, Why Liberalism Failed, which kind of put flesh on, wait a second, can we step back? And his big point is, I think this is, if anybody's interested in reading it, this is the paperback version. He said, he's asking, are we in our modern concept of freedom, are we inheritors of a kind of, talk about Marxist, like a progression, of an evolution of ongoing human perfection in the form of freedom that we now, because Blockbuster came and went, it's like a sign of freedom. If anyone knows what Blockbuster is, I'm with you. Are we a product of its evolution, its maturity, or are we violators of our inheritance? I think we as Catholics have a really hard time with this, because he's basically saying we are violators of our inheritance. And we're talking about the classical world, the world of Christendom, which was built on truth, goodness, beauty, Christ at the center of everything, to what we have now. There's a lot of people that want to like wrestle our modern thriving in material ways into like, well, this is where Jesus was taking us the whole time. And he says, the achievement of liberalism was not simply a wholesale rejection of its precedents, but in many cases attained its ends by redefining shared words and concepts, and through that redefinition, colonizing existing institutions with fundamentally different anthropological assumptions. So to translate, nope. We tried to claim them as us, but then we're actually doing something different. And he talks about the redefinition of liberty. There's basically three things that redefined it. He said basically kind of the Machiavellian concept, which is, and this is the number one, when we've had these conversations, even amongst ourselves and with other people, well, that's unrealistic.
Yep.
And Machiavelli would say, well, you can talk about your love and your this and it's unrealistic. So we should work within what's real. We should work within observable human behaviors of pride, selfishness, greed, and the quest for glory. Right.
So we should work within some of the observable realities.
Right. The ones that get us ahead.
Yeah, that's right.
But that was Machiavelli. He just said,
right.
No, just look how people are. They want to get ahead. Let's let them get ahead. So let's just let them, fight against one another. And that's good. That's good for the economy. So he talked about, you mentioned this, the ferocious conflict and the protection of their own particular interests rather than appealing to some lofty appeals to the common good and political concord. Mm-hmm. Let's just give up on that crap. Mm-hmm. Number two, I wrote in my marginalia here, what does your grandpa know? And he brought in, after Machiavelli, Descartes and Hobbes, and said that we should stop being ruled by irrational custom and unexamined tradition. Especially religious belief and practice. It's a source of arbitrary governance and unproductive conflicts, and thus an obstacle to stable and prosperous regime. Okay, so let's just let the churches have their churches, but don't let them in the real world. And then the last one is Francis Bacon, which now let's bring in science.
Oh yeah.
And encourage a new form of natural philosophy that would increase human empire over the natural world, providing for the relief of the human estate through the expansion of useful applications of human knowledge. So let's just be real. Let's stop living like our grandparents and let's use science to get ahead. I think that's like that as I was trying to comb through things, that seems like a fair description of where modern liberalism is today.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, I couldn't help but thinking about one of our mutual friends recently sent me, actually
say his name on a podcast.
Yesterday. Can we say his name?
Can we? Yeah, say his name.
Conrad.
Said it.
Yeah. Conrad sent me.
Your comrade, Conrad?
A recording of a 1994 interview on the Charlie Rose show, where I think he was talking to the man's Sir James Goldsmith.
Mm-hmm.
And
I haven't listened to it yet. He sent that to me.
Okay. It's worth listening to. What Goldsmith argues and was arguing publicly at the time was that actually the point we've reached in society is where we've put the value of efficiency and economic growth over and above any of the other goods that we would freely acknowledge are good, like wanting to have stable families and have friends and have social order and have good material infrastructure for the provision of luxuries and health and safety. And one of the examples he used was the American and Western world idea of basically forcing modern industrial agricultural technologies onto the rest of the world.
Right.
Purely because it was more efficient, because we could, because science had brought us to the point where now we had the ability to produce more with less labor, less manpower. People didn't need to do that stuff like their grandparents. And so we could bring it everywhere else in the world. And I don't know exactly how the numbers played out, but in this interview, he said, today, in 1994, there were roughly 3.1 billion people living in rural settings, working the land or related to the land in some way. And with the stated goal of particular agendas at that time to bring modern industrial agriculture to the rest of the world, roughly 2 billion people were going to be forced from the countryside to towns and cities.
To the city.
To the city, where the city, his argument was the cities, maybe that fundamentally he wasn't saying that's bad that people live in cities. What he was saying is what that does is it disrupts a social order that actually gives these people their life.
It is their life.
It is their life. They have family relationships. They have social ties. They have meaningful work.
We should say generational.
Social
actually,
ties.
what they have, I mean, I think if we were to put it into one word, it's tradition.
They have tradition.
They have a tradition that is intertwined with their social life, their economic life, their religious life, their family life.
Yep.
And the problem with these people that I have found, and this is from, I did the do-gooder American mission trip, where you're like, I'm going to go help people. And you realize like, I need help. To just studying the writings of Wendell Berry, it's like that all these people who are being liberated from their contented, stable lives,
their happiness,
they weren't asking for it. I watched a great documentary about, because we have a little dairy farm, so I love any documentary that deals with dairy, and it was the EU dealing with that they had brought this massive liberal, technological, economically advantageous for the global,
right.
And they ran out of places to put their cheap milk. So they started forcing it into Africa.
Wow.
And
in the form of powdered milk. And they destroyed, and they were interviewing these people and they were like, we weren't hungry. Yeah.
We weren't unhappy. So they weren't hungry and they weren't unhappy. So why did they go to liberate them from their happiness and their abundance? They weren't hungry. I mean, they weren't hungry. They weren't unhappy. This is the tendency, which he talks about and why liberalism failed, that we sort of experienced in our generations of watching like, well, let's go liberate various countries that like, I don't even know. Are we still at war with them? I can't tell.
Right. Yeah.
But they clearly need our help because they don't have McDonald's yet.
Yes.
Which we kind of conflate with freedom. So yeah, that's an interesting.
It was an interesting perspective because his point was that Charlie Rose asks him, like, what are you proposing? Like, what do you say? He was like, what I'm proposing is that actually we should place other values over and above technological efficiency.
But they can't. This is it.
But we can't actually.
Right.
And they had a guest on from the Clinton administration who basically said as much, that we can't stop it. The world is global by nature. The world is global.
No, the world's a globe by nature. It does, because it's round doesn't invite you to come around the corner, right? Like,
yeah. But like the guest from the Clinton administration exemplified this view that Deneen is painting, that actually she did not have the ability to question that next step. of disintegrating those people's lives.
And so they would look at us. And I think about this in,
you and I are terrorists, I
we're
think.
terrorists.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking of in the Catholic world, like the mass migration of Hispanics. Like, oh, when are they going to integrate into our culture at mass and things? I'm like, why would they? I mean, why would they? If they have a contented, stable culture. Now, there's a lot to talk about there, but when it comes to people that are perfectly content and then we show up to liberate them and they're like, from what? Now, this is not the same as someone who's actually under tyranny, but if someone actually has an order, unlike Machiavelli, that's beyond pride, selfishness, greed, and the quest for glory, and there are people that are contented. And even in the Western tradition, I mean, there's, rural Italy. I mean, there's places where people are like, what are you doing? Like, I don't need a new house. I have my 7th generation like, why do I need your new house? The next one is, why would I stop doing what my grandfather did? It worked for him. You just went to Europe and we were talking about how you encountered people that were, 6th generation?
Yep.
What were they doing? Making cheese?
Winemaker.
So
vineyard manager.
They have a business older than our country.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we have something to learn, right? And then the next one is, why would you be so Luddite to not accept scientific advancement? And this would be easily to get into our opinions, which we have strong opinions that are correct, about agriculture, regenerative agriculture. And basically, I think the simplest thing that a farm teaches you is that you can use something while making it more fertile, that you don't have to use up something.
Right.
It's not just input, output, that actually the order of love, that God created the world in love, that we can actually get what we need and what we leave behind is more valuable than what we took.
Yeah.
I think this is why we need to learn from the cow who passes 80% of what it eats in a form that is more valuable to the land than what it took. So manure is better for the land than grass. And it passes 80% of what it took in a value. So in a sense, by the input is less than the output. So in other words, the cow is not profitable.
Yeah.
But it's delicious.
Yeah.
Okay. So that being said, where I'd like to pivot really quick is this is esoteric. And there's people that are just confused. And this is where you and I stand, which we should or should not be friends on reinforcing ourselves. But when I wrote the book, Liturgy of the Land, and I was fascinated with if America was essentially a liberal and post-Enlightenment experiment,
right?
Which it was,
right,
and is.
Yeah.
So this is this is an uncomfortable reality that people today are arguing from the same document for opposing freedoms. Right. Okay. So let's just set that aside, right? Because both people are appealing to the Constitution, the freedom.
Yep.
However, it was an agrarian republic, which its rootedness in the actual reality of what it required to live. And the fact that we actually had tradition and custom that we inherited. And we've got these places of German ancestry, and you're from Louisiana, of French ancestry, and the rugged Scots, right? So we have the reality of our place. And I was fascinated with how strong the early government of the United States was in defending and protecting local place, particularly the productive household. And its laws were ordered towards the family's flourishing, which I would argue, and we argue in Liturgy of the Land, is found most fundamentally in the family being able to produce what it needs from its own property.
Right.
We live in the great state of North Carolina, which actually has in its constitution our right
to the fruits of our labor.
To the fruits of our labor on our own land. And you, in this great act of courage and faith, stepped out and moved here across the street and started a butcher shop. And I was writing that book as you were, and I was following the laws as they changed in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s which was an intentional shift in the United States from a productive household, local community-based republic to whatever it is now.
Right.
And you have been, I can only describe it as persecuted for attempting to have an ordered home towards productivity. And I think your story of what you've actually come up against is very important for people to understand. So in previous podcasts, if people haven't listened, the short story is you were a banker, then you were making robots to replace other bankers, your coworkers, and you just couldn't take it. And you had these romantic ideas, and you had read things like the gospel, and you wanted to do something different, so you started a butcher shop.
Right.
And I think we've kind of put off even talking about this because you've been fighting this battle. Mm-hmm. So if we understand that back to the very beginning, should laws be ordered towards, is it just no law or some law? It's actually, is the law ordered towards virtue, which is what he compares this to. Patrick Bean compares it to is Christendom, previous ages, understood not is a law for or against your freedom, but does it order you towards virtue? Mm-hmm. And therefore, in our case as fathers, does it order you towards being able to be a father, which would be working and serving, so working with and serving your local community and your family. And you've been objectively doing that in a way that is beautiful and observable and enviable right across the street from me. Mm-hmm. I can see this in this encounter. And I think we could say that the laws you've encountered are ordered towards against that.
Yes.
Right? So it's not a matter of do you need less laws or more laws? It's just that they're disordered. Mm-hmm. And so Patrick Deneen and these guys, they're kind of saying that they've come up with is order before liberty, which before we can have freedom, that the laws have to order themselves to our liberty. The simplest example would be if I say that dinner for my family is at 5:00, that is not a limiting of their freedom. It's actually an augmenting of their freedom.
Right.
So do the laws that that you've experienced, have they been able to order you towards love and virtue and serving your family, your community, or not? Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about your run-ups against. We can tell this story now, right? Is it okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's time to get it out there. All right. So tell us about what you built. And I know the hurdles, maybe we can skip over zoning. Well, I'll just tell the zoning. There was people in zoning that didn't want you here.
Correct. They got wind that we were intending to open this facility, which at the time of the start of construction was allowable under our local ordinances.
Which you had read because you can read.
Exactly. Local zoning ordinances. And between that time and actually receiving our state grant of inspection as a meat processing facility, the local zoning folks had made moves to actually ban this type of facility in the county and backdate the requirement for approval to before I had my approval with the state.
So it was about you.
Yes.
Now, wasn't there something that their ban was embarrassingly not tenable?
Correct. I mean, yeah. I mean, so the first proposal was placing my type of activity, which is to slaughter live animals and then butcher them to become meat for people. Put that in the same category as landfills and other waste management facilities, which are not allowed in our county except on county-owned property. Makes sense. Right. That those activities are only on county-owned property. So that was the first attempt, was to put my activity in that same category. And fortunately, there were some reasonable people in our county that said,
"Oh wait, I'm sorry, I got to step in."
That doesn't make sense.
So just to flesh that out, because we're involved with that story, when the zoning board got a hold of it and they started, and we see this happen, they'll put up signs, "Hey, this is changing."
Right.
They didn't like you.
Right.
And there was a small number, maybe one, of people who didn't like what you were doing, and you had not tipped the hat to them. And they changed the laws retroactively against you. And then they had a hearing. Is that what it's called?
Yes, public hearing.
A public hearing. Yep. And we got wind of it. And I remember calling one of our neighbors and saying, "Hey, you got to go to this hearing." And he said, oh, it's funny you called because the person from zoning called. And as I inquired further, they were clearly against you.
Mm-hmm.
They were saying, hey, you guys better look out across the street. There's a guy's about to throw animal guts all over your yard. There's going to be vultures everywhere. And the guy I talked to, or the guys I talked to, and I'm pointing because you and I are neighbors, literal people, were like, no, we're happy he's here. So then we went, the local little Protestant church went, and all these people showed up. And the big difference between you and other zoning board, blow ups was that the community showed up and said, we want these people here.
Right.
Because you had called me originally and said, what does the community need around there? And I said, a butcher. And then you start a butcher shop. And all the community was, great, there's a butcher shop. Even the church right across the street from you was like, we need this. Our parishioners they're going to be great. This is great.
Yep.
So everyone, and I remember the point we made as a community was the zoning board typically is trying to
restrict unwanted activity.
But this was the community going to the zoning board. What are you doing? We asked them to be here.
Right.
Which is a fundamental difference. And I think that's important because we've dealt with and we've talked about outside developers coming in the community. Mm-hmm. And people have a hard time reconciling, well, if I tell them what they can do on their land, then they're going to tell me what I can do on my land.
Right.
Which is a fundamental difference of someone who is coming from the outside to flip assets in your community. Mm-hmm. Versus someone who's coming into your community to provide a service. That's true economics.
Right.
The outside flipper is using your community to enrich himself, and he cannot, by definition, love you because he has no affection for the place. Mm-hmm. All right, so that's an important. Your zoning meeting was not just any zoning meeting. It was, come on, Bobby showed up, and the mayor of Green Creek showed up.
That's right.
All right, so you had that, and then tell us, but that was just the zoning. So you got over that. I don't know if we need to go into the building stuff.
Well, I can just mention that we built this building with the intention of having both a family living space under the same roof as our commercial space where we provide the service of butchery. And come to find out, the laws, at least in our state, the building codes and local ordinances are such that they don't want productive businesses under the same roof line as a family dwelling. And the argument is out of safety, fire safety. And you can say, well, that's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
Because the fire code requirements for the butcher shop and for the household are both less on their own than when you put them together. And suddenly when you put them together, they're both considered very low risk fire activities. But if they happen to be under the same roof line, now they're the highest risk and they're treated like a public dormitory or hotel or restaurant establishment.
Yeah, that was what mixed use is basically like you had to follow the laws of a dorm.
Yep. As if I had hundreds of people living there.
Right.
Or, So
well, I think it's important to note that when I was doing the research for Liturgy of the Land, Alan Carlson and his into the FHA and that the United States actually shifted its policies from favoring what you're building. So the United States, from its founding up until the 100 plus years ago, would have favored what you were doing because that's the most obvious human flourishing, the integration of work, home, productivity, community.
Right.
You literally embody the American ideal of its founding, which that's what I would say is that would protect us against whatever excess of liberalism as a philosophical force, the practicality of a family, not just Machiavellian, what works,
right,
but actually just the coherence of a family and its community protects itself. But then they actually punished homes that were productive or multi-generational. They would punish you with, and this came in the form of policy against loans and rates and things that they would punish if you were taking care of grandma or your own children or your own work in your home. And it sort of edged the home as a place of sleeping and eating and consuming, not producing. So you experienced that firsthand where people showed up at your place and goes, what the hell are you doing here?
Yep.
And you were couldn't answer because they're inspectors. You couldn't go, I'm being human.
Right.
Because inspectors they know a lot, not about being human.
That's right.
Okay, so then you had to overcome that.
Yes.
All right, so we're local. Now we're building code. So we're local zoning. Now we're building code. And then that wasn't the end of it.
No. And then we've got the, what is effectively the USDA, but in North Carolina, the State Department of Agriculture enforces or acts as the enforcement arm of the Federal Department of Agriculture. And I received approval from them to open and operate with my slaughter activities taking place outside under the cover of a pole barn, which they required me to erect.
No, you're wrong. I'm sorry. I know the story, and you're getting
All
it
right.
wrong.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You built your shop.
Yes.
And you said, hey, I'm ready to open.
Yep.
And they showed up, and they said, actually, no.
You need this pole barn.
And so what you had is an outside slaughter area,
Yep.
which honestly, you'd be out in the rain. Like you probably needed some cover.
I'm happy to have the cover.
And they said, you should cover this. And you said, you know what? I should cover it. And I watched you build this.
Mm-hmm.
I helped you with one little part. I wasn't there when the roof fell down.
You put a couple posts.
I put some posts in. And other, I remember the Dows were over there. Like, we're all helping you.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is like the last thing.
This is the final thing.
And then Craig's open. We're all excited. Yep. So they told you to build this, and you built it.
I built it.
Which was just a roof.
Just a roof.
And then
no walls.
You got approved.
Got approved.
Sweet. Okay, so we're in the clear blue, right?
That's what I thought. For about a year, that was true.
Okay.
Then that inspector retired. And then I have new inspectors, including the regional director who's taken an interest in my facility.
Yeah.
And their requirement was that actually that outdoor space needed to be fully enclosed, so that it became an indoor space, which is not actually in the law. The law just is silent on the matter of indoor versus outdoor. And
but his interpretation
is that it has to be indoor.
Okay. So then he told you to do what? No, actually, wait, didn't they rescinded? I mean, they took back the approval, or what? How did that work?
They can't take that back, but they threatened regulatory action against us. And now they've backed off of that because I challenged them on the point of, I was playing the game. And so I played into the reality that they haven't followed the proper administrative law proceedings in North Carolina. I don't want to get too much in the weeds here, but basically they were attempting to enforce something that they hadn't passed as an interpretation. And that's now, we're sort of at this deadlock where they're sort of offering tacit approval of me to continue because they're not taking action against me, while at the same time still requesting that I comply with their demands.
Right. So, okay. So I'm going to summarize because in case not, they approved you. I'm sorry. They came and said, you need to build this. You said, okay. You built this with the help of your community. It was mostly you, but just to throw everybody else in there. And they were excited and you were open. New inspector comes and says, this is not good enough. You said, but you told me to build this.
Right.
And they said, it's not good enough. So they moved the goalpost.
Yep.
And said, the roof is not enough. You need a building. And they started to declare your stuff like adulterated. I mean, they were.
Oh yeah,
they got very serious.
They wrote that into an official state report.
Right.
Yeah.
Which anyone who's like you've got the cleanest, great. I mean, your shop is amazing, compared to the little dirty dairy farm across the street. And then you pushed back and demanded that they explain how you can approve one day and disapprove the next. Because you may be dealing with different persons. And this is the point, this might not be connecting to people yet, but we're talking about law. That law actually brings order so that we have, it's not just, am I free to act on my own individuality and individual desires, or am I actually free to operate?
Right.
Free to flourish.
Yep.
So a child that has a stable family is under the tyranny of their parents. But actually, no, they're free to flourish because they have parents.
Right.
If you have a dinner time, if you have, it's not even like, do we follow the white line and the yellow line on the road? It's actually, is there a road at all? Like you can't progress at all if there's no order to the road itself. And they didn't operate in that way. I mean, it would be like literally, hey, you can drive on the right side of the road. Never mind, it's the left side of the road.
Side.
Right? Like,
actually have to drive in reverse.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And that's the connection that we're making, that you're actually experiencing firsthand. It's not whether or not there are laws.
Correct.
It's the fact that you are trying to do something essentially human, which is to operate to produce, like, and it's the same building, your home and your work. Are you allowed to be like Jesus? Right, in St. Joseph's Workshop, which would have been the same facility, and what you've experienced in our modern setting, which we think we're just dripping in freedom. The answer is you're actually not allowed to be like Jesus. So tell me about I know you to be a loving man. Like the reason you do good work is not to make money, but it's actually to love people. So if that's not true, you've really duped me. But tell me about the inspectors that you're dealing with. They're used to like Tyson chicken.
Yeah.
Right. They're used to like big
factory plants.
And so that's why they've taken an interest in you, either because you're a freak or a prophet, which is probably the same thing. But what has been your experience? Tell me some of the stories of them, like telling you to, like, you've told me some of these, like, do a good job. And you're like, well, of course, I love the people.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, so one example was actually this last visit last week. The inspector stopped in and casually reminded me to make sure that I was keeping dirt off of the carcasses that were hanging in my cooler, right? Which they remarked were, actually, these are actually clean. Even though you're slaughtering outside, we don't see any dirt or hair or fecal matter on these carcasses.
Shocking.
Like, wow. And I remarked that, well, of course, because I love my customers. They had no idea what does that mean? How to respond to that? It didn't register.
Right.
But it's been one of the most beautiful experiences for me in this whole endeavor was to actually have that firsthand experience that, yes, I'm attempting to follow all the rules that are in place to govern the work here, to protect people, but then I've moved beyond those in a certain way because I know the people I'm working for. I know you, I know John, I know Bobby, I know these people who are asking me to turn their animals into meat for their family dinner table. And why would I put fecal matter in their meat?
Right.
They're my friends. They're my neighbors. I could be a lousy guy and do that, but that's not my goal. My goal is actually to love them through the work that I do, which in some way, it just doesn't jive with the...
Right. It's outside of their imagination.
Their imagination as inspectors.
I think and this is where we were talking about at the very beginning of this, liberalism in the right and the left.
Right.
That the principle of love is actually you're not allowed to talk about that. Even though our saints, St. Francis de Sales, when he says, sell as if you're the buyer and buy as if you're the seller.
Right.
We're like, no, that's not realistic.
No, don't do that.
You can't do that. This isn't a win-win thing. I don't care what that guy said. Whereas it seems that God actually intended our economic activity. I know that's like sacrosanct. Like we're allowed to you love people, but you're ruthless in business, but you love them. That actually we are capable of loving and being economically viable in a way. And when I say economics, I don't just mean profitable.
Right.
I mean, it's preserving of the household, the community, the family, the tradition, the religion. Because if there's one thing at this point I hope we can admit is that globalizing and making something economically profitable oftentimes comes, and we see this in the world. I mean, all over in all sorts of places. Ireland, the prime example. If it means the loss of faith, people will still defend it. Well, at least they got McDonald's now.
Right.
What do you want me to say? It was like, well, they gained the world and lost their soul. That's what I want you to say.
Yeah.
But that these things matter, and us taking care of one another is possible. And I actually don't mean it has to be just these small podunk, you and me, butcher and dairy. There are people that have viable $1 million businesses that are able to take care of people if they're oriented primarily by affection, right? Which is this simple word that Wendell Berry uses to talk about governing and understanding what we're doing with our work is, can you have an affection for the people that you're serving? And I mean, I think I know, and this isn't just farming crafts. I think there are people that are accountants and that can very much say, I want what's best for this person and serve them and love them. So we talk about your situation and relating it to this topic is our laws and our order within our home, within our government is not just, again, are they there or are they not there?
Right.
Because we all know if we're left to our own devices that we're sinners. That's where we will tend. But if we understand things as being ordered towards our end, which is God, to love one another, our families, it's plausible. That I don't know if that's an act of faith or an act of reason. I don't know. Maybe we could discuss that. But what you've experienced, and I think what I've been observing, is an entire system that everything we're saying right now is those three principles. They would be like, well, that's not realistic. You're also like, what do you want us to do? Like, be like your grandparents and just butcher for your neighborhood.
Right.
Or what do you hate technology? You hate advancement. Like, why don't you just be a Tyson factory? Why even do this? And you would answer, because my family and because God. Right?
And one of the other things that on the technology point, just kind of a funny tidbit, I compost all of the waste, like guts and hides.
There's bones everywhere.
And
just so you know, your house looks like the elephant graveyard in Lion King.
Yes, I know. Those jawbones last forever.
The jawbones are everywhere.
Most of them break down within a few months.
Or make their way over here.
Make their way to your house.
From my dogs.
Yeah. So all the soft tissue goes away real fast. Anyways, we compost all of that and we can put it back on the land. We can keep that fertility here. So the normal operation actually is that places like mine will put that stuff in bags and then bring it to a landfill locally.
Really?
Yes. That's the standard way, or put it into
so bins. Other places around here we don't have to mention, but they put it in bins and dump it in the landfill?
Correct.
Really?
Yes.
It seems like such a waste at this point.
Yes. I mean,
because I've seen I'm totally envious of your compost right now.
Yeah.
The ones that are like working like
they look really good.
They look really good.
Yeah. So my inspector, who openly admitted, well, this is outside of my jurisdiction, I can't tell you about composting.
Right.
Like, well, glad you recognize that.
It's nice
then said,
nice for the,
but they make machines where you can just put all of those bones and guts into the machine and run it through a cycle, and within an hour or two,
you have McNuggets.
You'll basically have dirt because it just cooks it and grinds it.
Okay.
I was like, okay. He was like, I think I'd prefer that you have that.
He was just comfortable with that answer.
Right. That's far more comfortable to him, is the technological or technocratic solution to the problem of guts that nobody wants to eat.
Right.
He thinks, put them in an incinerator and grinding machine instead of putting them in wood chips.
Right.
Well, those machines start somewhere around $100,000.
Oh, just get you one.
Right. Just get you. So like this, the mindset is just get the thing.
Yeah.
It's a totally different way of thinking and operating.
Which is I'm watching what you do with your guts. When my dogs aren't digging them up, which I think they've been better lately.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Okay. I've been locking them up and you ruin my dogs' lives. They're restricted. No order and freedom for them. You're putting them in wood chips. They're feeding creatures on the land, right? The microbes, the worms. Yep. And it's becoming this compost. And then you're able to use that this is the part that I actually think people are uncomfortable with. The weird part right now is that it's free.
Right.
I mean, even your wood chips are, a lot of them, we had Hurricane Helene,
yep.
Wood chips come. And people go, oh, those came from a chipper. I'm like, okay, all right. Can you just pause for a second? The fact is, you can put things together on the land and make compost, and all you just need is like a little bit of patience and work. And it's not that I don't know. I guess we wouldn't be opposed to the tech itself. Sure. If you're on some sort of scale where that made sense, we want to. This is a whole nother topic of appropriate technology and all that. But the fact is that you have something that's working.
Yes.
But it's so outside. He's just like, man, I just would love if you had.
Yeah. Can you just have this machine that I can regulate?
Yeah, that's right. I don't know how to inspect your compost pile.
I can't inspect your compost.
You're like, hey, it's actually doing great. It's at 210 right now.
Yeah. You want to cook a chicken in it?
You want to cook a chicken. Yes. If they're wondering, I used to work at a nursery, and the compost piles, the Hispanics would bring a raw chicken for lunch, and they would bury it in the compost in tinfoil, pull it out at lunchtime, and eat that bad boy. That's just brilliant. That's just that's connection to the earth right there. All right, so he doesn't like that, but at this point though, you've fought back. You've written letters, you've had lawyers involved, and they're not backing down, but they've had to make some sort of realization that you're not Tyson, right? You can't just oh, okay, well, we'll just order this $50,000 piece of equipment or build this, that's just, and you've actually asked them to follow the procedures that are in their laws, which they didn't want to do.
Yes. Yeah, I think they've come to the realization that, so they've expressed to me in the past that, well, we told so-and-so, another processor somewhere else in the state, that he had to do this. And so he had to do it. And apparently I'm one of the few or only operators that will say, no, that's not what the rules say. So this is back to our conversation of order and law. I got into this knowing that this was a heavily regulated industry, and I'm willing to play by the rules.
Because I can read.
Right. And I want to run a business. I want it to be acknowledged publicly as a business. I don't want to be rogue under the radar somewhere.
And I love my customer.
And I love my customers. And when I say, well, let's just look at what the rules say, let's read them together, they come to the realization that, well, wait a second. That's not what we've been telling everybody else.
And see, I think that speaks to the fact this sort of regulatory environment, it doesn't need to just be repealed. It actually needs to be converted. That and this isn't look, I don't care. Tyson probably needs your daily inspections.
Yes.
Because they have no affection. And they can't.
They can't.
They will never have an affection.
Yes.
So they're not human. They're not humane. I have no interest in helping them. The cat and mouse with regulators and factories, whatever. Go chase each other. Yeah, just that's Tom and Jerry. Just watch it. It's funny, right? Just let them beat each other up. But when it comes to actually fighting, when people talk about, I bring this up with you a lot, or with people about you, is when you talk about, oh, I love local farms, I love local, family businesses. Well, then you're going to have to buy from them and recognize that everything is ordered against them, because your inspectors, the laws, they don't even have you on their radar. Right. And we experience this very small, totally different scale, the dairy, going grade A, realizing, now my inspectors though, they cared. They were we're excited about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it went a totally different direction.
Yeah.
But we found all these loopholes, and they were helping us find the loopholes. We were reading the laws, I told you, the wall had to be painted white.
Right.
And it just like stopped there where it was over there. It was like, that's not the dairy, that's the dairy. Because there was paint right there, not there. But you've experienced just the order of the actual inspectors, their imagination, the way their disdain or their lack of affection, lack of care for somebody who has a small family business. Mm-hmm. The laws are not written to favor you at all, and they don't. Mm-hmm. And you've experienced that firsthand.
Yeah.
So we as men, this is the Sword and Spade podcast. When you talk about your local economy, when you find someone who is actually fighting to serve you mm-hmm. and to provide something, you better fight with them mm-hmm. because there's not a lot of people in their corner. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's been your experience or.
It's definitely my experience. And I don't want this to sound like some soap opera about it.
I'll get preachy. Come on.
Terrible my experiences. Because overall, the whole project has still been incredibly rewarding, personally, spiritually, communally, not yet economically.
You can buy a pig share at melvinhillmeats.com, melvinhillmeats.com.
But I think it's absolutely true that, like, if you ever, like, stop to think about, well, why are all these mom and pop places closing? And why aren't new ones opening? Why are young people just opting for the corporate job where they get babysat and a paycheck deposited in their account every couple weeks?
After taxes.
Well, it's because this can sometimes just be a nightmare to attempt to run a very, like a micro scale business that is ordered to the family
and the community
is not at all what our social order wants to support.
Yeah. No, but they say they do.
Of course.
That's what's irritating to me, Craig, is they think they do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they would defend your freedom to do it.
Right.
But they don't recognize that the entire system is mm-hmm. ordered mm-hmm. against you. And that includes the entire apparatus that kind of props up the cheap Tyson chicken.
Yep.
Which is like everything that people would think and say that they hate. Like no one would be like, "Oh, I'm totally for that."
Yeah.
And I'm for small businesses and people working hard and supporting their family. But it's like, okay, well, what it takes is actually that you have the affection for us you have to be there for us and we'll be there for you. That's just how it works.
Yep.
No, that's been when we've had this conversation that I've seen more people just how hard it is. Mm-hmm. I've seen more people not fail at all scales of things, but like have seen how difficult it is just go get corporate America, versus like fighting. What you're fighting for is, again, it's the order. It's not the reward. I mean, you could, go back to your old job if you wanted. Don't do that. But monetary income.
Yeah, if I just wanted the cash, there are other things to do. Right. That's not the point.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the only way to keep going.
Well,
is to have an ordered value beyond the paycheck.
Right.
Or the luxuries a paycheck provides. Mm-hmm. And this is maybe one of the reasons, one of the largest hurdles we have as a society to overcome the effects of the Industrial Revolution is that we are so entirely wed to our creature comforts that we've gained. How could we possibly, on any large scale, move beyond them?
Yeah.
To some higher ordered value.
Right. Well, I think that was another podcast. This guy was talking about how the whole tech world is to minimize your pain, maximize your pleasure, and to make it as quick as possible. And he was saying that in the tech world, the time it takes to retrieve your archived email, it's pretty short, but it's not shorter than the time it takes to get your credit card because mm-hmm. we cannot delay that at all. Mm-hmm. We've got to get that money in. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to reordering things, I actually think it seems so the Leviathan seems so big that we can't do anything about it, but it's actually so simple that people won't do it, which is I'm going to work, I'm going to provide, I'm going to sell and trade within my local. It's actually like, it's remarkably accessible.
Yes.
Annoyingly accessible and doable. And I think when it comes to like, you're not going to reform the regulatory systems
right
towards the family if there are no families
right
doing it. Why would you?
Right.
There has to be someone doing it. So in praise and commendation for what you're doing, you're actually doing it, which is making them have to catch up with where you are. So thank you, Craig, for fighting that battle.
You're welcome.
Do you have any final words from Weaver before we go? Did you get to open that up?
No, I didn't open it up. I think we
covered it?
We covered it pretty well. I'll read a part of it. So Richard Weaver's describing the disintegration of society, that basically the abandonment of the center, Christ, ultimately, as the source and center of society. This is the problem which disintegration places in the lap of practical men, those in charge of states, of institutions, of businesses, is how to persuade to communal activity people who no longer have the same ideas about the most fundamental things. In an age of shared belief, so like we think about Christendom, for example, why do we desire that? Why do we think of that as something good? In an age of shared belief, this problem does not exist, that people have to be persuaded towards communal activity. For there is a wide area of basic agreement, and dissent is viewed not as a claim to egotistic distinction, but as a sort of excommunication. So instead of liberty and my freedom from you being my ultimate good, actually, I want to be in agreement with you. I want to share the same beliefs as you.
He's defining liberty as excommunication.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
That actually what we've experienced is a form of excommunication from one another on a massive scale. Everybody is excommunicated from one another.
Well, I think we should clarify, because that could be, I think like this is where you and I get in trouble. Is the lie that you want to be liberated from everything and everyone. The only place of perfect liberty is hell.
Yeah.
Right. Because all of us, everything we've experienced that's good in our life has actually been limiting to our liberty.
Yes.
Marriage, family, neighborliness, tradition, kin, patriotism, place. Everything that's actually freeing is liberty, which is why our Lord can say, take my yoke upon you. Mm-hmm. That's freedoms, to take my yoke, not to take it off, to put it on, right? Okay, so keep going.
The entire group is conscious of the tendency which furnishes standards for value judgments. When the goal of life becomes self-realization, however, this vanishes. It vanishes right at that point where the ego asserts its independence. Thereafter, what reconciliation can there be between authority and individual will? The politicians and businessmen are not interested in saving souls, but they are interested in preserving a minimum of organization, for upon that depend their posts and their incomes.
Woo, okay. That was perfect. That's the regulators.
Right? That's what,
A minimum of, what was the word?
You want to hear?
Oh my goodness. That's the regulatory model.
They are interested in preserving a minimum of organization.
So minimum standards.
That depends their posts and their incomes. So we've got minimum standards.
Posts and incomes.
So we can maintain our posts and incomes. We have our bureaucracy.
Right.
It is because of the disintegration of an ordered society that we have the bureaucratic regulatory environment.
Right. Because that's what, when people think about the division of labor or efficiency, they don't think about, well, what did we take apart to create this new machine?
Yes.
And I think what Richard Weaver, and by the way, if anyone hasn't, that's the ideas have consequences. The consequence that you're experiencing. I mean, this isn't just us waxing and waning on a podcast, right?
No, I mean, he was writing philosophically about this and thinking about these issues before they came to the head that they're coming to
But you're
now.
experiencing
Like,
it.
yeah,
What they took apart. So when we talk about what is the efficiency of the thing they put together in the regulatory system, the thing they took apart was family and community.
yes.
And so now
The fact that if I put fecal matter on your steak, you'd come beat me over the head with a club.
yeah.
Right?
Well, I'll give you. I'm sure that you would get dirty milk before I'd get dirty meat. People can come and verify and visit our farms. No, that's an excellent place. I think actually the ideas that I brought up here of how liberalism has dismantled family and local community and economics and the productivity of the household, the result, the ideas do have consequences, and you're living in them. So we're going to have you back on the podcast to talk about how successful the screen to porch you're going to build, which we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Thank you, Craig, for being on the Sword&Spade podcast.
You're welcome.